So I have a new friend here today that I've known about. I've seen him on videos and I've known about his presence, but we've never actually chatted. Very excited to just interact here and see what comes up. And so far we've been chatting. Just a very nice guy. His name is Emerson from Emerson Non-duality. He's got a YouTube channel and some other resources, so we can talk about that. But first, I just want to introduce Emerson. Hey.
Hello, Angelo. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you, and it'll be a fun conversation.
Oh, thank you. Lots of people have been asking me to talk to you, and it's finally it's here. So it's I'm
Awesome.
really grateful for this conversation, for this chat.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah,
I guess I'm curious. I know a little. I'll be honest. I haven't watched like a lot of your stuff. I've seen you,
yeah,
and YouTube starts serving you non-duality videos.
yeah,
So I see the faces of people, and occasionally I'll click for a short time. But I almost never watch videos anymore
yeah.
of anybody. So I don't know a lot about what you've done. But I've seen that you've had conversations with a lot of people I respect and know. So I'm just curious about you. Like, let me know what
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
about for you.
Yeah,
How's this
for
all come
sure, for
about?
sure. It's a really long story, but it's really relevant as well. Kind of like any stories about what this is.
Mhm.
Um, I was a spiritual teacher and I saw the how do I say it? The inadequacy of teaching
Mhm.
and just and I fell apart because I thought I got it, the classic story of I thought I got it.
Mhm.
And then for a couple of years I think I faked it and
Mhm.
maintained it, and then I was faking it, and I just became a desperate seeker again.
Mhm.
The suffering was so immense and I hit it really, really well, went to
Mhm.
depression, and encountered, I was looking for every guru, every teacher that was out there. So it's kind of like no stones left unturned, kind of like seeking, very neurotic.
Mhm.
Um, Read a whole bunch of sands, a lot of scriptures,
Mhm.
memorized a lot of them, was a quote taker, was a knowledge hoarder.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
and and everything under the sun. And then I encountered some radical non-duality, which shifted me, saying kind of like what is happening?
Mhm.
But that was not it as well in terms of realization, because there's nothing really to realize.
Mhm.
I like that it's already the case.
Mhm.
It's already the case. It was a really great catalyst, so to speak.
Mhm.
Just one day I was just DJing. Usually when I get stressed, I go automatically in things that I love to do.
Mhm.
And there was just this kind of like, what the hell?
Mhm.
What is this?
Mhm.
And then I spent maybe a month in silence. I was supposed to have I was supposed to make a comeback as spiritual teacher, but I
Yeah.
had nothing to teach anymore. And
Right. Yeah.
so I had this place for a month, and there was just a lot of silence, a lot of wow,
Mhm.
a lot of like, a lot of just the absence of the character. I couldn't find it, and it was
Mhm.
just walking, um, going to the washroom, eating, looking out the window,
Mhm.
and just the curiousness and the openness of what is. And so there was this, it's like getting struck with clarity, but you don't know how to speak about it.
Yeah.
You don't know what hit you, basically. And but
Yeah.
there was a lightness that I've never felt before. It's like I always talk about it like it's like I was carrying a backpack full of rocks and I don't know where it went.
Mhm. Yeah.
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 And but I was heavy into spirituality. So it was almost like a falling apart of everything that I've known, the purging of all the belief system,
Mhm.
and just this freedom that I don't know what to call, or I
Yeah.
don't know, even up to now, I don't know what to call it.
Mhm.
Um, and then I didn't know who to talk about this. There was this seeming isolation, right? I'm like, I called my best friend one time and I talked to him for an hour or two, and I was just like, there is no one here.
Mhm.
It's already the case. And a month later, he asked me, were you on mushrooms, Emerson, when you were talking to me? I'm like,
That's beautiful, man.
yeah.
I relate to everything you said.
And it
Um,
was just, it was just
yeah.
this bewildering, I don't knownness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It can be very surprising, even if you've heard people talk about it, even if you've heard the message, you've heard that there's really no one behind experience. Like you can hear it a million different ways. You can hear
Yes.
people describe it that clearly have lost that sense of self and all. But until it's clearer, it can be obscured somehow, strangely. But when it's clear, it's like, whoa, man, you can't. It's like you can't put anything together. There's nothing behind experience at all. It's just pure appearance. And what is that even, and was there a reason to even talk about it? Usually not. And
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And
I can relate very clearly to the exact description you gave and how concise it was. That happened to me when I was 24, and I didn't expect it. And I didn't know, I wasn't really a spiritual seeker. Interestingly, I was just a very, very intensely suffering human. I did meditate, but meditation was like a drop in the bucket for me. It made me feel a little better for a short period of time or whatever. But I mean, there was so much intense suffering here. And when it happened through reading some passages and figuring out like an inquiry method or something. And all of a sudden reality just started dropping away layer by layer by layer. And then
yeah,
the sort
yeah,
of last layer was the self
yeah,
structure of any sort at all. There was no self, there was no substance, there was no form. And from there, it was, I mean, you can talk about it as a radical message. Like I could have spoken about it or tried to that way,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
was even, I would say it was almost more radical than that, because I just didn't say anything. It
yeah,
didn't even make sense to say. I didn't even cross my mind to talk about it really to anyone. I did at first
yeah,
for just a very, very short time. And then I could just tell by interacting with people, I was like, yeah, there's no reason to talk about this. They don't want it. Most people don't want it. Most people don't, the person can't really want it. Not that it's a bad thing, of course, but there's so many ways to confuse people about it too. And I don't know, just for me, I literally just didn't talk about it for years and years and years. It was just done deal.
yeah,
There's no spiritual interest in anything, nothing. And then it strangely did start happening in the most organic ways, just casual conversations with people. And they would start shifting a little bit. They'd be like, tell me more about what you just said. And I was like, what did I say? I don't even know what I said. You know what I say? And then
yeah,
it was weird. I almost went back and relearned like the language for it so that I could talk to people who seemed interested. And it just snowballed from there in a very organic way. But there's still here, it's like in a moment I could stop and there'd be it doesn't even matter. I could never
totally,
open my mouth about any of this and nothing would change at all for anyone.
totally, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's so
So,
irrelevant, right? That's what I said. It's irrelevant. But in the story, you know what? I had that great supposedly awakening and I became a teacher.
mm,
But it was the same kind of like openness, but I claimed it. There was a claiming of it, right?
mm,
Because I was already in spirituality. And I think that was the dangers because it became my understanding of it.
mhm,
Or and then if it's not my understanding, I would look at the lineages,
mm,
from spirituality and everything. So
yeah,
there were, and I kept on having these glimpses, and I was meditating 2, 3, 4 hours a day.
mm,
I did the 10,000 hours kind of like mastery thing, and
yeah,
just be really, really, really relentless. And I was teaching people to become meditation teachers.
mm,
And and then when this supposed unhappening happened, it was just kind of like, oh wow, what
mm,
is this? And then as I said, I didn't know how to talk about it, so I connected with some people that were, I was in exile for a couple of years. I was
mm.
suffering and all this kind of stuff, um, and then I talked to someone, and then we started Nothing Media,
Oh, okay.
and we did a Nothing conference. But there
Yep.
was already clarity there, so I was just happy being a fanboy and being
Mhm.
able to talk about this to someone,
Yeah.
and um, and then there's a lot of gratitude for radical non-duality as well. But there was I talked about it accidentally. So I was
Mhm.
hosting all of these characters, and then one day one of the speakers could not make it, and someone said, "Hey, Emerson, you're pretty clear." And kind of like similar to you, like I've been doing one-on-ones on the side without
Mhm.
really being public about it.
Mhm.
And then people were like, "What the hell happened?" There's clarity. I'm like, I don't know, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you don't even feel like,
I didn't do anything.
people still tell me that stuff sometimes, and I say I don't feel like I have anything to say or teach, or it's just not really true. My mouth moves and words come out and I don't know
Yeah.
what effect that has. And people are like, "Oh, come on, and I'm like, I don't, not really, like I don't really feel that way." And it's very odd. It's just like anything else. Like things happen, movement happens, and colors and shapes happen, and forms happen, and the body
Yeah,
moves,
yeah.
and words come out, and
And
whatever
that's
that
even saying way too much.
well, it is true. They're really not even that's happening, but
Yeah.
in the
But you know
conventional
what I mean,
sense,
yeah.
like there's not really any special purpose to anything at all.
No,
You know?
no.
Yeah.
And it's just and that's what happened too. It was very, very, very almost it's an accidental speaking about it.
Mhm.
And then I promised myself not to teach again.
Hmm.
because that was a lot of suffering, and I cared too much about people, and there was a lot of shame and guilt after, because when I was teaching a lot of these practices, a lot of people seem to have suffered more. So I'm like, am I doing more harm than good, really? Is
Hmm.
that what's really happening? And more story to that one. So, but for some odd reason, there was just naturalness that happened, that I would be speaking and someone would say, message me, and they're like, "Hey, Emerson, thank you so much." I'm like, "Oh, wow." That's the end of my seeking, that kind of thing. There's
Hmm.
a lot of clarity there, and
Yeah.
I was really, really surprised. And then I took leave of absence, my work for 3 months. It became 6 months. It
Hmm.
became a year. And then a year later, I found out that I was not really charging anyone any money. It was all for free. I did my one-on-ones for free. And then so I went back to another job, went back to a job, and I realized I could not do the job anymore. There
Hmm.
was a lot of love for this, a lot of
Hmm.
I don't know what it is. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, right? It's
It chooses
because
you, really,
yeah,
in
it's
a
just.
certain sense. Yeah.
And then and I said I wanted to be transparent in what I do. So I started doing one-on-ones, but I wanted to show what I do in one-on-ones, just the simplicity of it. So from the very get-go, I've been saying that it's already the case. I
Hmm.
get really poetic about it sometimes and point out a whole bunch of different things,
Yeah.
but it's always been the core, you know what I'm saying, of what I say.
Hmm.
And it's just been it's been wow. You know what I'm saying? It's just been I didn't even think I was gonna make it to 1,000 subscribers at one point. I was just accepting. I'm like, you know what? If it lasts for 3 months, at least I had fun with it.
Hmm.
Um and again, it's kind of funny when this finally happened, but it never really happened. You don't go to the mountaintops and announce that, hey everyone.
Right.
It's very humbling. You know what I'm saying? It's like the specialness is gone now.
Yeah.
So there's a contentment of just what is, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the speaking about this has just been so wow, and the one-on-ones, I love it because it's just meeting what is to what is,
Hmm.
silence to silence, and there's no hierarchy. So it's almost like and this is just a story as well. It's almost like making up from those teacher days,
Hmm. Yeah.
taking away the obstacle to, kicking out the pedestals, you know what I'm saying, and just
Yeah.
really flattening equanimity and equality. And it's just, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. I think that's what I see is, when we try to teach from a place, even from true compassion or true empathy for someone, there's something in there for us that we don't see. There's like there's a self structure still operating, but strangely, when all that's just rubble and there really is no specialness and no orientation to anything in particular, something very surprising can occur and just come out of nowhere, and you can't know how that's happening, and but it seems to just appear, and that appearance seems to have effects, and that's great. you know
Totally, yeah,
yeah.
totally. And I've been getting a lot of people that are just emailing, they're just watching the videos. They binge watch the one-on-ones, and I'm like, see, I never did anything. They're just watching the video.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the clarity comes, and it's just so beautiful. And I meet where people are at. If they're meditating, so what? If they're not, so what? There's
Exactly.
just no more preference to anything. Um and there's a lot of compassion for seekers that have been there for a long, long time.
Hmm.
I remember listening to Tony and Jim and just hitting the wall over and over again and feeling really, really depressed,
Yeah.
and just feeling very nihilistic and just a whole bunch of different emotions. And there's gratitude still, you know what I'm saying? There's
Hmm.
gratitude for
Yeah.
that still. But at the same time, I see a lot of people that get stuck on nothing
Yeah.
because it becomes an idea, it becomes conceptualized,
Yeah.
although the apparent intention is that there's no concept at all. This can't be conceptualized.
Right.
But it goes to another concept, and everything is a concept that's talked
Exactly.
about. So you can go from one extreme to everything is God to
Hmm.
one extreme that everything is nothing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Being aware of awareness, there's nothing to do. Same
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
Because it becomes something that is conceptualized or grokked by someone.
Hmm.
This can't be grokked. It's
Yeah.
ineffable. Yeah,
Hmm. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with you there. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to criticize anyone or anything, but yeah, it
Me
can,
too.
anything can get too rigid. I mean, anything can get too rigid, and
It
one
does.
one
It
size
does.
fits all. I mean, some people are just so beaten up by life that they may just in that moment they just need like support. They don't need to
They
be
do,
told
they
they're nothing
do.
because they've been telling themselves they're nothing,
There's
but
no me, there's no
emotionally
me, there's,
nothing, and they're
yeah,
disassociated,
yeah.
and and they may need to like work a little bit in the relative self for a while before they can really hear that. So anyway.
You usually attract people that have gone to the gamut, like the whole
Mhm.
spectrum, so to
Yeah.
speak, right? So it's very similar to what I went through. So it's
Mhm.
almost like I'm just there to hold their hand as a friend. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That there's
Yeah.
just it's already done. You're walking through the mist or something, what.
Mhm.
But if you want a holding hand, basically, so we usually talk on WhatsApp, and I
Mhm.
just have about maybe 200 friends now, people that have done one-on-ones that have, translated into friendships now. And it's really, really great. We
That's
don't have to
awesome.
talk all the time, but they'll kind of like message me and say that it's still peaceful. I'm like, well, it's always
Mhm.
peaceful.
Yeah.
That's
Beautiful.
the default thing, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Mhm.
no matter what appears, it's just this immediacy, this directness of this peace that can't be talked about. It's
Mhm.
always there.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and that's basically it. It's just so simple. And
Mhm.
I appreciate, I same with you. I don't watch non-duality anymore. I have
Mhm.
no interest in spirituality whatsoever.
Yeah.
I watched your interview though with part of it with Rick,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
like, there's a lot of similarities here, kind of like when you talk about it's just a thought.
Mhm.
And then people take the thought really, really seriously, and it
Mhm.
becomes absolutes and truths and all that kind of stuff like that. And sometimes that's all it takes is when they have this idea that there's still a contracted energy, or there's
Mhm.
still a me, or there's still a self, or
Mhm.
that, and all that is just can be just ripped apart. The veil can be ripped right away and say that that's just a concept as well.
Mhm.
Everything
Yeah.
is a concept.
Mhm.
and um
Absolutely.
and there's really no duality or non-duality for that matter.
Mhm.
It's still a concept, right? And
Yeah.
so the clarity is can't be spoken about, but yet here we are talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. What
yeah,
I found is a way of saying it is, there's no good way to talk about this, but the absolute is realized. It's realized that what we're talking about
yeah,
there really is no way. There's just no place to rest your head. There's no
no,
fixation anywhere, and there's no where. There's no anywhere. There's no
yeah, there's no
solidity. Like we
center.
can we can talk about what isn't here, and that's
Yeah.
great. And it has to be realized. It really does. Like if we're
Yeah,
talking about true liberation,
yeah,
um, then for this is just for the character Angelo, that went away. It never went away at all. But
yeah,
it also didn't necessarily need to be talked about all the time. In a
yes,
sense, it's just kind of there. And
yeah,
so then the ability to meet people in the relative just
yeah,
got more and more and more and more, such that
yeah.
I don't need to negate the relative at all. I don't
No,
need to
no,
tell
no.
someone they're not there either. I don't need to say any of that stuff.
Yeah,
It will
yeah,
automatically happen. It will just happen. And so
yeah,
there's a beautiful dance of sort of
yeah,
relative and absolute, or meeting people where
yeah,
they are. I don't need to deny if your experience of reality is that you're a self, you're a person moving through time, you have problems and you need solutions. I
yeah,
don't really need to directly negate that with you.
yeah,
I might do it on videos or whatever, but
yeah, yeah,
in the moment,
yeah,
there's just a knowing of how
yeah,
where to meet that person and when to say, have you noticed this? Have you kind of noticed this isn't
yeah,
really like that, And I
yeah,
don't know. That's what I find. So there's a nice dance that happens, and an instinctual knowing of where people are with things, I think,
yeah,
to some degree. Because as you said, some people are ready to pop or whatever,
yeah,
just let go of everything, or it's already
yeah,
happening, and that's just it. Other people, I think they do have something they're still working through that's intense for them, and they're not ready to let go of it. And I can also meet them there. I don't need to stand back and go, well, there's no one there, that's not happening. That can
yeah,
be, to me, that can be a little callous, or just
yeah, yeah.
not
And
seeing that the relative is the absolute, and the absolute is
yeah,
truly relative.
and
There's not even a distinction there. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've noticed. So I continue
Yeah.
usually that conversation, and I'll say that there's no one there, but it does feel like there's someone there. So it's
Mhm.
okay if there's someone there.
Yeah.
And it's not a
Exactly.
negation. It's just basically exposing the whole spectrum of it, the
Yeah.
whole dual, non-dual, whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Expression of it. So it can appear as this and that and whatever it is. So I meet people where they're at. And usually when the seekers has gone to hardcore seeking, they've flipped sides already.
Mm.
Sometimes they're at the consciousness awareness, I
Mhm.
am everything, the I am that. And then they go to there's no one here. and then you go back again, right? So it's almost like, I know where you're at because I've been there, because that's what I did too, right? Here I was, um, there was my mantra before. It's like, I am that, I am that, I am that, I am that,
Mm,
for a long, long time. And it became, there's no one here. There's no me. There's no me.
mm,
Both are the same.
mhm. Yeah,
Both are the same understanding and
exactly.
misunderstanding at the same time, because
Yeah,
me and no me is the same. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's just an expression of what is, and it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
And yeah. And
Yeah.
it's just,
Words
and
just
just,
don't
I'm
touch.
just,
Words just do
they
not touch
don't.
this.
No,
It's
no,
like,
no. And then that's why even when I talk about this, I'll even go directly to the source of it. I'm like, all words are made up.
mhm,
If you look for a word, it's just made up of more words.
mhm. Yeah.
And everything is made up, really. But
Mhm,
nothing can be made up at the same time.
mm,
And it's just this play. It's just this
mhm.
beautiful play. So I do the break dance, and and
I love the breakdance.
and popping and locking with them, saying.
Yeah, exactly. Pop, lock, and drop. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that you say that your core message really is the same, and it's already this, it's already here, and I think
Yeah.
that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Um, and not only true, but it's a very powerful and aligned core message.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I looked at my first videos. I'm like, I've been saying this from day one. Okay, good, good. Because some people are you changing your message at all? I'm like, no, there's just an openness to it.
Hmm.
There's just an openness not to negate someone,
Hmm.
not to make someone feel bad,
Yeah.
not to tell someone, not to correct someone,
Hmm.
not to deny someone. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah.
that's just there's just when you're facing a lot of people that are suffering seemingly in the story, and you've been there, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
Compassion arises as well to meet them where they're at. And
Yeah.
usually I tell them, you know what, give me a call, we'll talk and everything. And
Hmm.
and I think that's when the one-on-ones became powerful, when there was just an expression that, you know what, it's already the case. I know
Hmm.
what you're saying. But and then we'll just go into, I don't plan it, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But there's a lot of friendships that happen afterwards. Just give me a
Yeah.
call afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's like, okay, I'm done, Emerson. I'll call you, you know what? Goodbye, kind of thing. Or they'll
Hmm.
call me 6 months or a year later or something.
Yeah.
So it's just this beautiful expression that it's always as it is, no
Yeah.
matter what it is. And there's no correction that's needed.
Mm.
And because that was when I was in the spiritual aspect of it, I really was running on unworthiness.
Hmm.
The seeking was being run by, I have to be worthy to be enlightened. I have to be
Yeah.
worthy to awaken. I have to purify. I have to correct my thoughts. I have to drop all my thoughts. I have to do this. I have to do that, do this, do that. And that was like the 10 years. I said this before. It's like Dante's Inferno pales in comparison to
Mm.
to
You
that
know,
that that seeking when you think that you got it and you lost it.
yeah, it's so familiar. It's the thing about what you just said is so true. It can be very, very hard to see that the basic sense of self or whatever it is, it's always trying to fix something about itself,
Yes.
actually.
Yeah.
And you can be so identified with that, it can be rather hard to see. And yeah, only when it's over that it's like, oh, yeah.
Well played. Well played, you know?
Yeah.
So
It's like, man,
I'm like,
oh
what?
man.
Well
Oh,
played. And then I laugh at all of those, sleepless nights of crying and not
mm,
being able to get up.
yeah.
And wow, wow. So I understand when people say that I just want out. And
Mm,
I'm like, but
yeah.
there's no in as well. You're not
Yeah.
in, you're not out. It's,
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Just
Mhm.
the relief. So it's almost kind of like, I'm like the crazy old man, that has the sign, there's nowhere to go.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is it, this is it. And it's
Mhm.
the end of the world. It's the end of
Yeah.
seeking. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
That's why I like, I haven't really, when I saw the title, I'm like, simply always, so I'm like, oh, that's the same thing.
Mhm. Oh
It's
yeah.
already this. It's already this.
Yeah.
It's already this.
It's interesting. I talk about awakening. I talk about inquiry and these sorts of things. Um, but in my book, it's endless paradoxes because I'll talk about it and I'll say
Yeah.
that's just how it looks like it's happening,
Yeah.
and it's okay that it looks like it's happening that way. It's
Yeah.
not actually happening. There's no event. There are no events. There's not an event called awakening.
Yeah.
But I understand that it looks like that. It feels like that. All of that energy of dissatisfaction wants to go somewhere, you know. I do, and if you're going to put it somewhere, put it into inquiry, turn it on itself, find out what the source of that is. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It's like a
Yeah.
jujitsu
It's
trick.
for
Now,
paradoxical anyway, so why not?
exactly. That's exactly it. This all is a complete paradox, you know.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
all meaningless anyway, so why not? Why
yeah,
not? Saying it's just it is already the case no matter. And that when all the bottom falls out, so to speak, all that really is left is just this unconditional love and freedom for
yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah,
Whatever it is, there's no more putting down anyone, you know what I'm saying, or
yeah,
that's wrong or this is right.
yeah.
It's just an openness. It's just an openness. And I
Mhm.
like that when Josh came to ask me to be a guest on his show. And I'm like, okay, this is the openness that I was been talking about, right? That
Mhm.
there should be no sides of non-duality, but there will
Yeah,
be, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's okay too.
yeah,
There should be no radical, there should be
yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
Because it's all what is already.
Mhm.
What
Yep.
only divides that is belief systems, that
Mhm.
there's something better and there's something worse.
Yeah,
And that's what usually
exactly.
keeps the seeking going.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Beautiful. Not much to say, is there?
No.
Do
It's
you find yourself, well, I can really, all I can say is I can really relate to what you talk about with making friends and the pace of things. That's how it is for me. It's like when I interact with someone for the first time, I say something along the lines of usually like, there's nothing I'm going to take away from you. There's nothing you
yeah,
need to lose or get rid of.
yeah,
There's nothing I'm going to give you. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with you at all, you
yeah,
know. And just understand, like, that you don't need anything from me and you don't need anything from anyone, or, you know. So I'm happy to have this conversation, but I just want to say that at the beginning, like, things are
yeah,
already okay
yeah,
the way they are, and, you know, we can explore however we need to explore. I don't have a
yeah,
method at all. Sometimes it
yeah,
goes into emotion space. It's pretty not uncommon. It goes into an emotion space because when
yeah,
you start directly addressing identity structures, like, things happen, and the anger
yeah,
comes, the fear comes. You know, those are going to happen.
yeah,
There's no reason to deny that. And so
yeah,
I think it's good to be comfortable in those spaces as well. And the way you're comfortable in those spaces is you've been there and you
yeah,
actually get it.
yeah.
And at the same time, you know, it's all also okay, even though it can be quite intense experientially.
Oh,
Um,
totally. Yeah,
so yeah.
totally. I usually say this: if there's something that I could give you, I would given it to you already.
Mhm.
If there's
Yeah.
something that I can
That's so
offer,
sweet. That's such a heart-based, like, expression.
it's I'm just being sincere, right? And
And
the
you're being
sincerity
honest. Yeah.
cuts through. Yeah, just being honest, right? Because if
Yeah.
there's something like, why would I not? I would be a horrible person if I could, if
Mhm.
there's something that I could give to you and I'm holding it from you,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
because it's already the case, it already is. No matter what I say or do, it's
Mhm.
already the case. All I can really do is just illuminate that that's it.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah.
And usually sometimes, you know what, it's in not what I say, it's not in what I don't say.
Yeah.
So it's almost kind of like, what did you say? And all of a sudden there's this looking around the room, and it's just, I don't even know what's going on. And we just laugh, because it becomes absurd to talk about it now, because
Mhm.
it's already. And
Mhm. Beautiful.
it's just so beautiful. My I take care of my mom. I moved back, what I'm saying, to help out my mom. And all she hears, then my dad hears me laugh all the time now during COVID, and they don't know what's going on. And
Mhm.
but it's just such a yeah, it's just so joyful to talk about this, and the passion that comes out. I don't know where it comes from,
Mhm.
and um, it's a poor career choice because you don't really make money from it. But it's the love of it, the love that just comes through. It's the sincerity that there's just, it's almost like, I don't know what it is, but it's almost meeting what is to what is, like this, like what we're doing right now. It's just there's no barrier, there's no wrong, right, there's no better, worse. It's just
Mhm.
plain,
Yeah.
direct
Mhm. Yeah.
talk about what can't be talked about.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Perfection.
yeah, perfection already.
Mhm.
How was that writing of the book for you? I That's when I stopped, the interview because this was coming up. I
Yeah.
have a couple of books that just went on a I have one book that was almost like it just got downloaded, just wrote it, but it's
Yeah.
incoherent, some of it, because I have to put it all together. So
Yeah.
how did your book come about?
It's funny. That's exactly how I experienced it. Some writing came. People were asking me, hey, can you write out what you said? That's how it started. I would write an
Yeah,
email, and then there was like a small group of people I was writing emails to, and then I would revise the writing because the revision process, you can kind of see it gets a little clearer and what I'm actually trying to say, because this is very nuanced in a sense. It's very, very subtle what we're talking about, but it can also be very misinterpreted. So I found the more I kind of revise the writing and like feel into it and then just completely let it go for months and then come back to it. And so I had a whole bunch of writing, and it was just in this unstructured
yeah,
mass.
yeah,
And I really
yeah,
didn't know.
yeah,
I'm like, do I need to put this together in a coherent fashion? I don't know. And something in me just dropped it. I actually dropped it for a few years.
yeah,
And then this was very strange. This has happened to me about 2 or 3 times in my life, but I
yeah,
remember it very clearly. But I was in Jamaica sitting by a pool. I wasn't thinking about it at all. Hadn't even thought about a book or writing. And all of a sudden it was like the structure of the book downloaded. It was really wild. I
yeah,
couldn't write it out fast enough. I was writing the
yeah,
chapters. I kind of knew the overall structure it was going to be in. And then
yeah,
it felt like I could feel it all coming together in my mind. I was like, I just started writing. I wrote for a couple of years and revised and revised and wrote and revised, and more came, and it really felt like it had a life of its own, truly. And
yeah,
it was like there was almost a physical adjustment to that much information coming through, and because it's conceptual, but it wasn't coming from a conceptual place at all. So it was really an interesting place to be. It was like giving birth, really, and I wouldn't know what
yeah,
that's like, but so I just took as long as I needed to take. I didn't get in its way, but there were times when it would come to an end. And I couldn't write anymore. I didn't know what it was, and I would just stop, and then a month later, boom, it would just come back. It would start writing. Sometimes it was something someone said. It was so
yeah,
fascinating, like the way it would come about. And at some point, if you feel it coming, it's coming, and it'll
yeah. You know what?
materialize in its own time.
That's because I have almost three books, that one is complete, but that was transcripted from my meetings and everything.
Yeah.
And a couple of wonderful, people that helped me, transcript it painstakingly and edited it painstakingly. I love them. But there was this book that was writing itself in all of that, right? So it was just like this, like it was crazy because you know what? It's almost like trance-like, you know what I'm saying? You're like writing, 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 writing,
Mhm.
writing, and you're like, oh, and you look at it, you're like, oh, wow.
Mm.
It's some of it's incoherent and everything. And this has happened to me a couple times already. And the first time I did it, I deleted it like 100 pages into it. I'm like, this doesn't really matter anyway. So I deleted it.
I know that
But
feeling.
you know the feeling, right? I'm
Oh
like
yeah.
reading it,
Yep.
and but there was some really beautiful stuff there that's come like, oh wow.
Mhm.
Um so so yeah, I'm sitting on three, on transcripts right now that I have to somehow put together. One is finished, maybe I'll just release that one, which is just
Mhm.
a transcript. And then the other ones are it's it came about when I was meeting. So here's what's been happening. So I have the radical non-duality people, and I've
Mhm.
also have a lot of people that are coming from sanghas and
Mhm.
spirituality, and
Yeah.
coming from scriptures and lineages and everything like that. And they somehow encounter. They like that I'm more approachable
Mhm.
than the radical. That there's this openness or whatever. So it was almost like a battle of wording and everything. So I'm like,
Yeah.
let me write this in a way that can be universal for both, right? So
I'm with you, buddy.
that's what I'm talking about, right?
Oh,
It's kind of
100%.
like,
I tried to do that in my book. First chapter, I tried to
yeah,
write. I wrote it so many different times, and I was like, because I could say, if you say it this way, you might filter out any Christian that happened to be reading it. You could
yeah, yeah,
filter out
yeah,
and someone who,
yeah,
not that defines them at all. It just may
yeah,
be a belief system that they go, wait, this isn't the kind of thing I believe.
yeah.
So I really tried to be human. I really tried to be not
Yeah,
even
yeah,
just
yeah.
human, but just
That's what I
direct.
did too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted, it to be really lucid.
Hmm.
And I read the whole thing, and it did not mention a me or a no me. And
Hmm.
I was surprised by that because, and I think that's sometimes the trap is, right? Because there is a
Yeah.
default that there's a me or no me, or self or no self.
Hmm.
And both debates are a moot point.
Yeah.
It can't be debated,
Yeah.
saying, if you know what I mean, right?
Oh,
It's
totally.
just
Yeah.
like,
You
who
certainly don't want to
cares?
start with a
Yeah.
philosophical paradigm. You know?
Yeah. So that book was
Yeah.
just kind of like it just flowed and flowed, And that led into one monk that was watching the video, and I communicated back and forth with me, and I sent a little bit of that, and that led into him leaving the monastery. He
Mm,
was severely depressed from it because he kept on waiting for that great moment,
mm,
big moment. So he takes me to some monasteries right now. I'm not going to disclose what it is. And
mhm,
then I talk from that place of just no dogmatic language or whatever. It's just really almost like a nursery rhyme. It's already this, already. What this is cannot be talked about. And just really simplistic way of communicating.
mm,
And it's not anyone's message, not my message, not,
mhm,
it's just words that are coming out without any intention to sway anybody. It's just
mhm,
really kind of like it's like walking in a clear lake. Although the walking muddies the water,
mm,
it's always clear.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Very poetic. And you're obviously a poet. Like you have some poetic talent, I
I don't
think.
know where it came from, to be honest, right? When I was a kid, there was a poet, you know what I'm saying, that I completely forgot about. Of
Mm,
course, when you're Nation family, they're like, you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor and that kind of thing.
mhm,
So
mhm,
you forget about the artistry and everything. But I do love words. I'm
mhm.
a wordsmith in a
Yeah.
way, and I like using names and saying, emptiness, emptiness, but it's not even emptiness,
Mhm.
and just coming up with a whole bunch of
Yeah.
um words, and that sometimes it's almost like uprooting the word with another word.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've said sometimes it's actually using language in exactly the way it's not meant to be used.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like you're actually misusing language. Poetry has that effect though. Poetry just opens you beyond the words. That's the whole point, right? Whether it's to a feeling or to something beyond any form. And
So I'm a non-duality polyglot. I can speak many
what does that
languages,
mean?
and
I want to learn the word.
meaning that you can speak different languages
Oh,
basically.
gotcha.
So I can speak radical non-duality. I
Yeah.
can speak, awareness, consciousness, and everything, and I can say that this is all God, but there's also
Sure.
no God.
Mhm.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm with
And
you.
it's because sometimes it's um the desperation sometimes of seeking the last thing that they're holding on to, the moment that you say that word and then you vanish it
Mhm.
in a really kind way, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's almost like a drowning of that
Mhm.
belief system,
Yeah.
but not drowning as a fearful thing, but drowning in love,
Yeah.
basically. So it just becomes it.
The love, see, to
It
me,
it it becomes
the
it.
love is the key.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest, like just talking to you, you have a huge heart, and that
Oh,
matters a
thank you.
lot. It matters a lot. It really does. It comes through. It's kind of like people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And when you're talking about something this, I mean, to point directly to someone's identity structure and show that it's actually not there can be, I learned this a long time ago. It can be
Yeah.
really destabilizing in an unfair way. And so
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't do it.
yeah.
I don't do it without permission. And I'll often
Yeah.
ask people like, how direct do you want me to be sometimes, and,
Yeah.
and I have to really calibrate that because I've really freaked people out and not meant to
Have
at
you had
all.
people convulsing?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
many
yeah,
times.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just sent
Yeah.
people into like existential crises and they weren't ready
Yeah.
for it and
Yeah.
they don't really, I don't know. I've done it on accident a few times and I've
Yeah.
just been careful about it. So I try to gauge where people really are, how serious they
Yeah.
are about really, are they ready? How ready are you to let
Yeah.
go? Like
Yeah.
what's going on here? Because as you said, it's very easy to see that there's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see that identity structures are really nothing but a collection of impressions and thoughts,
Yeah.
for
It's
you.
it's
For
very
me,
easy to
easy
induce a
to see.
glimpse, basically, but
Yeah.
to be able to show what cannot be unseen, it's almost like I do also I even tell my stories. I'm like, okay, this is what happened to me. You know
Yeah.
what? I had this belief and everything. So I go in full mode story time
Mhm.
and everything, right? So it's almost like a bedtime story,
Yeah.
or a it's just really, the I know this is just irrelevant as well, but in the story, when there's a lot of compassion and a lot of heart,
Yeah.
um it does, you know what I'm saying? The sincerity to be saying to say that there's nothing I can give you because
Yeah.
it's already done.
Yeah.
It's already
and
done.
it
It's
and it's
finished.
not even a better way of experiencing, and that is
Yeah.
critical because then that's the only way you can really judge someone's permission, I think, energetically, is if you have any finger on the scale, you can really confuse people or mess them up,
Oh,
so
totally. Yeah,
but if it's
totally.
more like doesn't matter either way, actually, relative, absolute, awake, asleep,
It
someone
doesn't
believes someone's
matter.
there,
Yeah.
it's obvious that there's no one there, it actually doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
then you can meet anything where it is, and you can meet people where they are. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when all the seeming veils just completely, vanish. It was never there in the first place. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's just there's no space anymore. There's no more distance.
Hmm.
And all the words that seem to, come, they just ephemerally vanish. You know what I'm saying? And it's just what is.
Yeah.
And no one even knows what's talking is, or what's being said anymore, right? It's just this,
Mm.
it's a wonderful play. It's a wonderful play. And that's basically it. It's just so simple. And I have nothing against people that, does practices, or aware of awareness and everything like that. That's
Mhm.
perfectly as it is as well,
Yeah.
right? It's just, to put something down. This really happened like just a year ago, right? There was just this wonderful authenticity that came on. Like, the character loves, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Just
Hmm.
loves, it's unconditionally and everything, right? So
Yeah.
it was getting a little bit uncomfortable with putting people down that were teaching, because that's
Yeah.
also it.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you find yourself, talking down about spiritual seekers or talking down about spiritual teachers,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know, that I pick that. It always sounds a little funny to me. Like, well, why do you have to make that distinction at all?
Yeah.
If you're
That's
saying there's
true.
no one, nothing, no distinctions, no,
Yeah.
how can you make that distinction? I can't
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
you know?
And to talk about, and this is coming from love as well, right? But the talk about, why talk about the me when there's no me so
Hmm.
much, right? Because it just seemingly kind of like, it creates this idea. Now it becomes a carrot now,
Hmm.
that a me has to fall away. There
Yeah.
has to be something has to um something is contracted, and it has to be open or something.
Hmm.
Then
Yeah.
that's just duality again, right? So
Yeah.
it creates a next
Hmm.
when there's really no next. And it's
Hmm.
okay too. You know what I'm saying? It's okay
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
It's because there's just so much misconception of what's being talked about. And it becomes very dogmatic
Hmm.
at times, when it
Yeah.
becomes, becomes repeated over and over again. And again, no fault of any speaker or teacher.
Yeah.
It's just what is. It just
It's the
seems to
nature
appear
of
in
human communication too, in a
the
sense.
nature of words. The words, when it's repeated over and over again, it becomes a belief system.
Yeah.
And
I just
even
like
if
to
the
pull. I just like to pull rugs.
yeah,
Rug
yeah, me
pull
too.
rug. I'll pull my own rug. Pull your rug. We can pull. Oh, it's that. Okay, let's pull that rug. Oh, it's that now. Pull that rug. And
Yeah,
in a way, like, I can't talk about what is, right. There's no, even to say what is, like
yeah,
it's an it. To
yeah,
say it's just this, like there's a this. To say, anything you say can be misinterpreted, of course. But one description I could give, if I wanted to give a description, would
oops,
be it's a sort of an endless free fall. I can't
it
even say
is.
it's stillness. It's not
Yeah,
stillness because
yeah,
it doesn't exclude movement. It's like,
yeah,
where is movement and stillness not two? Like,
yeah,
it's endlessly falling into itself, in a sense. It has a
yeah,
sort of beautiful dynamism,
yeah,
but I can also recognize the stillness, because nothing's ever moved. There's no thing to move, and
yeah.
so that's why I think poetic words and poetry can be
that
really
that's
powerful here.
that's usually happens when I usually go into, I don't know when it happens, but when I go into a poetic mode,
Mm.
and then when I start speaking in a meeting, people are like, oh, more of that,
Oh,
please. Because it becomes kind of like this. It's not about a position
right.
or having no position, which is also a position.
Yeah,
It's not about
exactly.
making
Yeah.
it's not about making declarations, because that's
Mhm.
just another position. It's making something the truth or no truth and everything, because that's just words, right? So when the words just seem to flicker in and out, and
Mm.
trying to express something that is inexpressible, and it's just this untangling of ideas of what is, the this and not this just becomes whatever it is, and there's just this
Yeah.
ephemeralness of what
Mm.
seems to be talked about, and it does not need to be understood or grokked or whatever, because it
Mm.
already is.
Yeah.
So the words are just like, snowflakes falling gently
Absolutely.
on what already is, or a small rain, like a little pitter patter of rain, that little kind of like soundtrack to what already is silent.
Think also they're a way to
Yeah,
tune in, because for me, movement is more powerful than words. So
yeah,
the quote unquote physical, but the energetic experience of being
yeah,
around somebody in a room with them, I
yeah,
can feel the emptiness there, if it's there, if it's not. Like, I
yeah, yeah.
the word, so
That's
words,
a
I think, help
phenomena too. Yeah,
can help,
yeah,
like, tune people in. And then once they're
Yeah.
tuned in, maybe they're not even listening to the words anymore. It's I can't hear your
Yeah.
words when you're speaking poetically.
Yeah.
There's a cadence to it. There's a
Yeah.
silence and then a speaking and then a movement
Yeah.
and a tone, and all of that really
Yeah.
coalesces into this just the sort of beautiful expression of that which cannot be expressed. That's it.
Yeah. You know what's funny though, right? I did regular meetings here in Toronto where I am.
Hmm.
We don't do meetings anymore. We just go eat out because no
Oh,
one is
that's
seeking
perfect.
anymore. So it just becomes kind of like they know I love to eat. So
Love
we just celebrate the birthdays and everything. Maybe I'll do another one because people have been asking. But the small group that we started, right? It's just beautiful, right? We celebrate each other's birthdays,
it.
and I'm really lucky, when it comes to my birthday because it's just a whole bunch of, friends that are grateful for the friendship.
I love that.
And yeah, and one of them actually was saying that I listened to you on Angelo Emerson. I'm like, oh, cool. And that's when you came to my radar, so to
Mm,
speak, because he was no longer seeking. There was just, he goes, it's very similar to what you speak, but kind of like you know what I'm saying? It's there's no more seeking energy here to listen to what the other guys are saying, so to speak,
yeah.
because it's who cares, really?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
love it. I love it.
Yeah. So
That's
when
so cool to just like just hanging out, just
That's
chilling
just
out,
hanging out.
doing
Yeah.
regular stuff. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And once in a while, you know what, there's new people that come along and we just go for coffee
Mm.
and we just talk, about what this is if they really want. And again, they don't even know what hit them because we're not even talking about non-duality. Again, kind of like what you're saying, it's energetically, right? It's I don't have anything special,
Yeah.
that's a full disclosure here,
Yeah.
but somehow energetically, there is just this lightness.
Hmm.
There's just this
That's
lightness.
perfect. Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So when are you coming to Canada? Are you planning to come to Canada at all or?
Um, not sure if I'll do anything there, a retreat. I do know some people in Toronto. No, maybe they're more in Montreal. I know people in Toronto as well.
Yeah.
I forget because I know people from so many places that I kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
lose the names and locations and
Yeah.
all. Yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah, I've been trying to do some meetings here and there, but priority is my mom.
mhm,
She's immobile right now, so I'm the caretaker. And
oh,
but it's also the same, I'm saying I love doing the meetings online as well.
mhm,
But yeah, when I go usually to BC,
mhm,
which is where I was a spiritual teacher. A lot of people are curious to what happened to me. So
mm.
there's usually a lot of people that attend. But yeah, maybe we should do something together later.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Something
Yeah,
it's
I would agree.
beautiful. It's just yeah, it's just what is.
Mhm, exactly.
For lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Well, it's been nice talking to you, and
likewise.
we'll definitely have to stay in touch. We'll do this again.
We will. Yeah, yeah, I'll do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for. I just want to say, thanks for being there for people. That's what I feel like saying to you.
Likewise. Thank you for being there too. Thank
Yeah,
you
man.
so much. But we'll talk
Okay.
soon. We'll talk
For
soon.
sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
All right. You have we have to do a part two on my channel. So I'll
Let's do
message
it.
you. All
Let's
right.
do it. All right.